In one of our previous videos, we talked about GST and why it is not the cause of the current crisis which is happening along with demonetization. It will be wrong to club both demonetization as well as GST in one single bracket. In this video, we will discuss what are the problems which GST is facing, what are the achievements that it has made, and what are the suggestions which are given by experts to make GST a better tax than what it is already there. Uh, Before I start, please do share this video with your friends who are preparing for CAT and other MBA entrance examinations. Subscribe to our channel if you're watching this on YouTube. If you are watching this on Facebook, please do like and follow our page. Let's go. A lot of you would actually know about GST already. GST is a unified system of goods and service taxes. The key benefit of GST is that instead of paying a local tax as well as a central government tax, almost all the taxes are basically incorporated into one single tax, which is the GST. Right, so you don't have to pay you don't have to pay state excise taxes or octroys or all those things on most of the products. There are few products which are exempt, for example, liquor, and you have petrol. Those two are kept out of. Those are the two major items which are kept out of GST. There are other items as well, but largely speaking, every good as well as services can be now has been brought under the GST regime. The other big benefit of GST is that it unifies services as well as goods, as well as physical goods. To give you an example, suppose I am running a coaching center, right? I'm providing a service. So when I charge fees for the services, right, I'll have to pay GST on those services. Now earlier, though that GST which I've paid cannot be, set off against the taxes or the VAT or the excise which I've paid for buying items like a book or stationery. All those are physical goods. They don't. There will be VAT which is going to be charged against them, or excise duty which is going to be charged against them. That cannot be offset against the service tax which I was collecting. What it is now doing is that they've unified the taxes. So suppose I have collected 10,000 rupees of fees on which I'm getting 18% GST. If I spent 3,000 rupees in terms of goods, on that I have paid 18% of GST. The net payment that I have to make is 7,000 rupees on the 7,000, 3,000 to 10,000. On that 7,000, I have to pay GST only on that amount of money. My net GST payable will be only that amount of money. Because my profits increase as a result of which, because my taxes go down, I can pass on this benefit to the end consumer. This is the broad idea of what GST was supposed to do. Bring all taxes, at least all indirect taxes, into one single head, which was the GST. Now, GST was introduced in July 2017, and in over 2.5 years now, we have seen the good part as well as the bad part about GST. So we look at what is the good part, we look at the bad part, and we also look at certain recommendations which are given by experts on how to improve the GST than what it is right now. All the links to the sources which I used to create this video is available in the description of this video. You can have a look at it as such. Now, besides the unification of goods and services and the pan-India part, GST is an achievement in itself because it was the first time that the states and the central government came together and agreed on an issue. In fact, GST victory is actually claimed as a reason of or as a standard bearer for how you can perform agricultural reforms as well, because there are a lot of things which are in the agricultural sector which are given by the central government, and then there are states government which also have their schemes. There is no cooperation over there, so instead of having two different parts, you can have probably one single impetus to tackle our agricultural problem. So GST is given as an example or a standard on how the state and the central government can actually come together. Now, GST was also very beneficial when it comes to crossing the highways. Instead of having multiple truck lines, etc., you now only have e-way bills. You don't have all those excise checkposts, etc. You can just fly through all the way. The only time you are actually stopped as a goods carrier is when you are carrying any. I mean, when they suspect that you are carrying anything illegal, or you have broken some driving laws or road transport laws as such. So the passage of goods have been very smooth across state borders as such. Now, no system can be perfect, and one of the achievements of GST is that instead of being everything on theory, when it was started somewhere in the early 2000s, where people said like there should be a unified system, and it took about 15-16 years for actually the act to be implemented. But now that it has been implemented, we have got over the initial inertia. We can actually now go towards making it better. I mean, in India and as with the rest of the world, change is pretty difficult to achieve. And because we have achieved at least the most significant change where everyone accepts that GST is a reality, there's no point just rolling back GST. It's not going to happen. It's going to stay. All we can do is make it better. So before we look at how to make it better, we also look at what are the problems that GST has been facing as such. Now, the first problem with GST is basically the collections problem. When GST was introduced, people said the government, the psychological level which GST was looking at is that every month you should get 1 lakh crores in collections, right, in GST collections. Unfortunately, that target keeps on going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. In almost half the years or half the months, that psychological target has actually not been hit, right? So that becomes a problem. Now, why is that an important problem? Because the government, in order to get all the states to come together, government had promised that till 2022, which is like 5 years for GST, state governments will get an increase of 14% every year on year on the taxes, and they will also be guaranteed in case the state level taxes are not as high as what GST or what they used to get earlier. So under the VAT or the excise regime, if you earn some amount of money, the central government first guaranteed that you will definitely get this much amount of money under GST also. On top of it, you're going to get a 14% jump year on year. So any shortfall will be managed by the government, central government itself. That was the reason why the state governments agreed. One of the key reasons why state governments agreed that we will accept GST. Now, unfortunately, GST has not been able to generate as much income as such. One of the key reasons is because the economy is not doing so well. And GST is basically a reflection of how well the economy is doing. So if the economy is not doing too well, your GST collections are not suddenly going to go up. Right? So that is the first, and because the GST collections are not going to go up, your state governments are not receiving money from the central government. In fact, another compounding reason for this is that the central government is delaying giving the share to the states. In fact, the Kerala government actually threatened to sue the central government, saying that if you don't pay us our money, we will basically go to the court and ask us to give you our money because of you, our state finances are getting messed up. Now, the second reason why GST has a problem is because of what is called a inverted GST structure. So there are a lot of goods. GST has multiple slabs. You have a 5% slab, you have a 12% slab, you have an 18% slab, you have a 28% slab, and there are also some other special slabs also. But because there are different slabs, you can have what is called an inverted structure. A key example is bicycles. So the final bicycle attracts a GST of 12%. So if my selling price of bicycle is 2000 rupees, they will add another 12% on it. That has to be collected. Now, unfortunately, the raw material which are used to make the bicycle, for example, you have all your ball bearings, your pipes, tubes, etc. Most of those items are under the 18% category. Now, the advantage of GST now ends up becoming a disadvantage in this particular case. Now, if I ever, my raw materials are costing say 2,000 rupees and my final selling price is 2,500 rupees, ideally the central government, I will have to pay a tax on, as a buyer and seller, I will have to pay a tax on the 500 rupees, right? That's an increased value which I am, the increased value which I am doing. Unfortunately, because the raw material attract a higher tax and the final product attract a lower tax, I'm actually now eligible for a tax refund, right? Because I have paid more GST while purchasing the item and I'm collecting lesser GST while selling the item, I'm eligible for a tax refund, right? This is a problem across a lot of other items also. Like for example, woven fabric, and even some other items like agarbattis, etc. The raw material is charged at a higher rate. The final product is charged at a lower rate, as a result of which the manufacturers and sellers are actually entitled for a discount or a refund when it comes to the GST. So that is one hole which the government has set up a committee to plug. So that part has to be streamlined. One of the reasons why there are so many, this problem also happens is because there are too many tax slabs. A lot of people wanted just one single tax slab, but because of various political compulsions and loss of revenue fears and all those things, the government went with four slabs. A lot of people have said like there should be only three slabs and probably even one single GST, which is like 15% for entire country. There might be some products on which the GST rates will go up. There'll be also a lot of products on which the GST rate will come down. If you have one single GST rate, basically it'll be much more easier to understand what the there'll not be any problems of this refund, and it'll be easier to comply and file the returns, etc. as well. So that is the second thing which is there, the inverted tax structure and too many tax slabs under the GST which are there, and most people have said rationalize those slabs. Ideally there should be only one GST for the entire country. The third big problem which a lot of people face is in terms of getting refunds back. Because of the amount of compliance and because the date of filing the returns for the GST keeps on extending every single year, your uh, your credit which you're supposed to get as a result of GST, you don't get credit over there. Now, if I'm not getting credit for the GST which I've already paid, right? That amount of money basically is held up. So your working capital requirements actually go up. For example, there are a lot of all these traders, they work on your rotating cash. So they will get money from somebody. They are supposed to get money from, they have to give money to some people and they have to pay money to some other people. Because the tax credits are not given on time, their cycle keeps on elongating in terms of recovery of money as well as payments of this money. So this, because this cycle has gone longer, in order to make sure that their business is afloat, they have to borrow money from banks and financial institutions on a shorter term basis. So that working capital, that cycle has actually become longer. So what earlier used to be 35-40 days has now extended to 60-65 days for a lot of companies. So because the tax refunds or tax credits are not given on time, the working capital management has gone up. So a lot of people have said like make sure that your tax credits are given on time. Very similar to the problem which the states are facing. The government is not paying them money. They are also not able to pay up their fund. So if the government delays something, it has a cascading effect to the entire economy. So making it faster, making the credits faster is also one of the suggestions which is given by a lot of people. And the biggest con and perhaps one of the easiest way to get over this con is basically the compliance available requirement. And there are two parts of compliance. There are people who are evading GST by putting fake invoices. There are a lot of news recently that almost 45,000 crore worth of fake GST invoices have been, tracked down recently, and this will plug a system. So that is the first part. The other part of compliance is one of the unique features of GST is that you have to have your invoices matched, right? Only then the credit will flow through the system, the GST will flow through the system. Now, when you want every single invoice to be matched, right, it's going to create a lot of problems. So if the IT system is not working properly, or there is a mismatch or writing in one invoice because one person's mistake, you will have everyone being affected over there. A lot of people are saying that instead of having everyone to have to match 100% invoice matching, which has never been done. In fact, countries like South Korea and Australia have tried 100% invoicing, and basically they gave up because even with those systems, they were not able to get 100% invoice matching. You target the big companies. So one study, again the link is given over there, is that majority of the almost 90% of the GST payers have turnover less than 50 lakhs, right? And their contribution to the GST is about 10%. So the remaining 10% contribute almost 90% of the GST. Concentrate on those 10% of the people rather than having everyone to go through this invoice matching system as such. So that is basically the good, bad, and ugly of GST, what it has achieved, what are the problems over there, and how the problems can be solved also as recommended by the experts. As I said, the link for all the reference material which I used to create this video is available in the description of this video. If you like this video, please do share it with your friends who are preparing for CAT and other MBA entrance examinations. Please do subscribe to this channel. If you're watching this on Facebook, please do like and follow our page. Till we meet again the next time, goodbye and all the best.